Welcome back to the incredible Rockets Propaganda Channel. I am your mans, AK Infinity. Follow me on Twitter /X at AK_Infinity_VVS. I got my mans, one of the busiest people, SI sports writer, franchise podcaster. I got my man James Piercey in the building, man. What's going on with it?
What's good, man? I got to correct you. I actually write for Fansided, not SI. It's all good, but I know my employer would like to make that note. So.
I'm tripping.
Yeah, but other than that, we're chilling.
Do not be mad at me.
No, they won't be.
But yeah, man. Woo! We're gonna have an uncomfortable conversation today, people. Do you like that or do you not like that? Either way, you're gonna listen to it anyway. So let's go on and jump into it, man. But real quick. If you made it to 50 seconds, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, because not only are you going to like it, but you're going to like everything we do moving forward. So let's go on and get into it, and leave your comments down below as well. That's cool. So yeah, man, the three-headed monster, I think we have found are three guys that we're going to for sure move ahead with the Rockets moving forward in the rebuild. Obviously, it's Amen, Jalen, and Şengün. Some others would say those are not the three they'd probably go ahead with. They'd probably go on with somebody else. That's fine. Everybody got their opinions. That's cool. But what we kind of want to go over today is how the three complement each other, if they complement each other, and what makes sense to put around them moving forward. So which one you want to start with, James?
Man, let me start actually on a different note a little bit and say this, like, I'm hoping to see Jabari Smith Jr. and Tari Eason on the Rockets for a long time because I really like both their games. I think they both fit with anybody that you could put out there, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, what that's going to come down to is like probably contract negotiations. I think maybe Eason should be pretty affordable given how much he's been hurt. So what you're kind of hoping there is like the Warriors with Steph Curry, where he kind of had some injury problems. He signed a below market deal, and then the injury problems went away, and now he's like one of the best contracts, right? So I think that's a hopeful outcome with Tari. Obviously, I just want to see the kid get healthy as well, but it could help the Rockets on the books. And then with Bari, I think it's a question of like, do we pay him as a number 3 pick, or do we pay him as a role player? Because he's been more of a role player, you know. I'm not really.
And he's coming off the bench now.
He's coming off the bench now. I think that should change like by next year. I think, but I don't think he's looked like a 30 million type of player, you know. But at the same time, I really like him, and I'd like to keep him on the roster. So it's just kind of we'll see how that goes. But I think the three guys that we're zeroing in on are like kind of the guys who can initiate offense and be like the backbone that way, you know. And Amen is just a special defender.
Yeah, if you ask me, Amen Thompson should firmly be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation this season. There's no reason for him not to be. As of late, he probably is taking a step back, you know, playing the minutes that he's been playing. But overall, big picture, big body of work. I mean, yeah, it's not like guys are trying to get him switched on to them. We know that's not the case.
No, sir. Quite the opposite. Yeah, people avoid him. I agree. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, man. Let's I guess let's start with let me kind of touch on the Tari and Jabari thing a little bit myself too. Just as you said, those are probably the two most malleable players on the roster. Sure, the Tari, I do agree that it's going to come down to contract, and I think the Jabari coming off the bench thing, I think is strategic because they want to make sure that they can bring him back at a reasonable deal, because I do believe they want to bring him back. Him and Tari. I think they want both back. Now, obviously, if anybody's been paying attention to my Twitter /X in the past, I don't know, probably month or so. Yeah, I am a big Jabari guy, and I've been kind of yelling from the mountaintops that he probably should be starting, because you only know what you're missing when it ain't there, and when he wasn't there, you started to see, okay, yeah, we beat the Celtics and the Cavaliers a little bit. Okay, and we had some good big wins in there. That's cool. That's cute. But if you look at how we were doing it, that's not sustainable, and we saw that. It wasn't sustainable at all. No. Which brings me to the Amen Thompson stuff. All right. We're going to start with Amen Thompson. I'm not even saying that he should be the one to go back to the bench. He can start. That's fine. But moving forward, I think the glaring issue was there, the jump shot. I mean, if we had to complain about anything, which one would you rather have, the jump shot or a tighter handle, if you had to pick one?
Probably a jump shot, because I honestly think the handle is like not that far off. Like, it's at a point where he can penetrate in half court sets, I think, if the defense doesn't pack the paint, right? Like, if the defense is a little tilted or semi-set, he can get to the 10. It's not really that big of a problem. It's just that when they dare him to shoot, he doesn't really have a good response. So to me, the jumper would be more important. Unfortunately, also probably less attainable. So
I'll say this too. I agree with the jump shot being more important, but I think that the jump shot will complement his handles, because it's easier to stab at his handle, because, you know, I mean, you're not gonna go for no pump fakes on him. Like, he doesn't have no hezzy, because why is he gonna hezzy? Who's gonna jump at you? Nobody is gonna respect your jump shot anyway.
Yeah, there's no triple threat stuff going on, really, right? It's just
exactly
he can either drive or he can't, basically. Yeah,
pretty much. And this is just according to how he's being used right now. I'm a proponent of him kind of being used as a hub himself on the elbow or in the short roll. If we're not going to, you know, have him as being the lead initiator all the time, there's other ways that you can deploy him. But yeah, that's something down the line. That's worst case scenario if he never becomes a league average jump shooter. That's worst case scenario. So his ceiling, I mean, let's start with his floor. His floor, I think, is super high. He might, let me think. Does he have the highest floor out of those three, Jalen, Şengün, and Amen? Does he have the highest floor, you think?
Well, I might be inclined to say Şengün has the highest floor, because, like, he's already an all-star, you know? Although you can make the case that Amen has been equally or more impactful this year, but then Şengün might have been better last year than he's been this year, right? He just happened to make the all-star this year, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Şengün's made he's made a big leap on defense this year, but it has come with a bit of offensive regression. So in any event, like, he's been a star-ish player now for 2 seasons. So I think I'd have to give highest floor to him, but not to take away from your point that Amen has also a really high floor of his own, right?
All right. Now, let's ask this, throw this out here. How does he complement Jalen, and how does he complement Şengün? Let's just look at the raw skill sets of each. Yeah. How does he complement? Let's start with Şengün. How does he complement Alperen Şengün?
Yeah, I think the conflict between him and Şengün, for them to work, and really the crux of everything we're going to talk about, to me, is shooting, right? It all boils down to, like, the collective shooting of that trio, because Jalen is a fine shooter. Like, he's a very fluid jump shooter. He can shoot off the dribble. Like, he's by far the most gifted shooter of that trio. But I don't think he's ever going to be, like, a consistent high efficiency, high volume 3-point shooter, which I also don't think he needs to be a star player necessarily, because he's so fast and he can be such a good slasher. But if he's going to play with those two, who are, I think, very unlikely to be high volume, high efficiency 3-point shooters, it starts to get problematic, right? So you asked me how they complement each other, and I kind of instead answered how they don't. but one thing I like about the duo of Şengün and Amen is that offensive defense alignment, right? So where Şengün, although he's made a lot of improvements on defense, there are situations where he could struggle. Amen is pretty foolproof on that end. And then times when Amen is struggling to get a bucket, Şengün is the guy that you can just kind of hand the ball to and say, go score 2 points. And got a good chance to do it, right? Yeah.
And Amen cuts very well off of Şengün as well. He's a very good, timely cutter.
Yeah, so I think that really works for them in terms of, like, putting Şengün at the elbow or the high post. If there's room for Amen to cut, they can do that stuff. And I'll add to that if Amen doesn't get a good look off of that cut, he'll pass it back. So there's a lot of good big passing stuff that works between them. Yeah.
Yep. I'd say another thing that another way he complements Şengün is defensively. See, people, and this is not me trying to discredit Şengün's defense necessarily, but I believe the more we've played the Terror Twins, let's just take the Terror Twins in general, but the more we've played the Terror Twins, mainly Amen, it helps Şengün not look like he's late on his rotations a lot. This is not me trying to take away from Şengün at all. It's just a matter of that's how he complements Alperen Şengün on the defensive end. Not to say that Alperen Şengün isn't a better defender and more defensively aware than he's ever been. Obviously, that's the case. He is so far improved in his own right. But I think the presence of Amen Thompson being in the rotation so heavily now has made Alperen Şengün's defense look a little bit better. Along with Jabari, I'm gonna throw Jabari in everywhere I can, just FYI, because.
Yeah, I think statistically the defense has really taken a hit since Bari was out, right?
Nosedive.
Yeah, nosedive. I think defensively, Bari and Men is probably the best front court combination with Şengün. To take nothing away from Dylan Brooks, but Brooks, he's more inclined to guard guards, really. He's not part of a front court defensive scheme so much as he's a point of attack defender in my mind. You know what I'm saying?
Not anymore. I don't know what happened to his point of attack defense. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, Dylan, I don't know. Maybe he gets tired throughout the year or something. He grinds pretty hard for a lot of it. But yeah, point made. It's tricky, man. It's a tricky combination of young players, right? All these guys have a lot of really good strengths. I do agree with your point that Şengün, for as much as he's dramatically improved, he is inoculated a little bit by a phenomenal defensive roster. The Rockets have just drafted a lot of really good defenders, and they added Dylan and Fred VanVleet, and Ime Udoka is a defensive mind, and so there's been a real emphasis on defense, all of which has offset his deficiencies. But to his credit, he's got really quick hands, and when he's at the level, he can create some chaos in driving lanes and passing lanes, and so he does have a skill set on defense, which last year I couldn't necessarily say for him.
And he fouls a lot less.
He does, yeah.
Fouls a whole lot less. That is huge.
Yeah.
Especially with guys like Dylan Brooks on our roster who will foul a jump shooter. Him, Tate, they're going to foul foolishly. Well, I don't
even a man, really, to be honest, as smart of a kid as a man is, I think he sometimes is struggling to balance that intelligence with the aggression that he knows he needs, and so he'll commit some fouls. He'll knock Giannis Antetokounmpo on his ass,
Yeah, that one was terrible. That might have made a Scottie Pippen foul on Bill Laimbeer. The exact same foul.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Scottie Pippen was my man Thompson comp. So
there you go. Yeah. And everybody kind of obviously Bill Laimbeer and Giannis Antetokounmpo, very different players. But there's a similarity of they're very physical and they get under
big physical, intimidating defenders.
Yeah, exactly. Just one was a star and the other one was a role player,
Yeah. Super role player, but a role player nonetheless. Yeah. I wonder how he'd play today. Anyway, that's
he can shoot a little, so
he can shoot. Yeah, that's why I even asked, because if he couldn't shoot, then I'd say he'd probably be
out. Yeah, no, yeah, maybe he could be backup or something. I think.
Yeah, he'd be probably a decent level backup. Yeah, I'd say. But screw Bill Laimbeer and him and his Detroit Pistons. Screw him and his whole career. I don't care about him. So all right, so that's Amen Thompson and how he complements Alperen Şengün. Now, how does he, in your eyes, complement Jalen Green?
I think that the compliment there is a little more obvious. So, if the thought experiment is we're only keeping two of these three guys, which two are they, right? Mm-hmm. If that's the framework of the conversation, and we're assuming that the other of the three is getting traded for a star that can shoot, right? Let's make that assumption. So much as Jalen is a really inconsistent three-point shooter, he is a strong enough three-point shooter to put in any lineup with Amen Thompson and not think twice if there isn't another non-shooter in the lineup. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think that works well. And then just the combined athleticism and the transition game between them is a really natural synergy between them, right? That's pretty much the two most athletic guys in the NBA almost, or at least way up there.
Close to it, yeah.
Close to it, yeah.
So, at worst, top 10. At worst.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people you hear a lot of people say oh, you can't build your game around transition, and that's true. Of course, the half court is ultimately the most important part, but you can maximize transition and emphasize pace and try to be the team that plays fast. I do think that's a viable strategy. You just also have to have good sets that you can score from in the half court.
Yeah, most definitely. I think, man, that as far as the half court, the full court stuff, the fast break stuff, the pace stuff, that's all. I mean, it's all obvious. I think everybody can see that. It's clear as day. But for whatever reason, the numbers don't really look too different with a man starting versus when Jabari was starting. The numbers don't look too different. The pace numbers, they don't look too different. But at its face, you can tell the two of Amen Thompson and Jalen Green really do complement each other. In the full court, in the half court, there is ways that they could that is not being used right now. Again, Amen in the short roll. I would like to see a lot more Jalen and Amen pick and roll. I don't see why that's not a thing like that. And you can use Amen as a lob threat.
Yeah,
like why the hell not? I think that's a way that that's something we can lean into. It's just hard to do that when you got Şengün in the game as well.
Oh, yeah.
So this is gonna really look like we hating on one player. Is not, but we just saying it as it is. People gonna hate it or like it, however they like, but we just stating the facts for what they are, man. Yeah. But yeah, I think and then defensively too, Jalen has improved. I think a lot of that again is due to the defensive infrastructure that we have. But I think Amen's defense has really helped Jalen feel like he can gamble a little bit on defense. And you can tell that Jalen kind of feeds off of Amen Thompson's energy on defense, because when Amen is out there and he's being the dog that he is, Jalen is out there like, okay, I got to do something to look like I'm not the weak link on defense. Because at times he can look like it. At
times he can, and he's actually a pretty good defender. It just speaks to how strong the Rockets' defensive roster is now, right?
Most definitely. It's easy to say Amen Thompson compliments everybody, the whole entire roster on defense, because he could play at the point of attack. He could play and help. Obviously, he's not gonna be. You don't want him guarding Jokic or nothing, but I'm all right with him on. Yeah, I'm all right with him on like Giannis. You probably get abused slightly, but I'm all right with him on a Giannis. I'm all right putting him on chasing guys off screens like a Klay Thompson. I'm all right with him on positions like that.
Yeah.
So that's. Is there anything else you want to add to how Amen complements either Jalen or Şengün?
No, I think we covered most of that. Yeah.
Okay.
Time to get into maybe the uncomfortable part of the conversation for some people.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be the Jalen and the Şengün stuff is gonna be uncomfortable for everybody. So let's start with Jalen. We're gonna save Şengün for last since he's the big man. Back line of defense, right? So Jalen Green, how does he? I think it's pretty obvious. How does he complement Alperen Şengün? Let's start with Alperen Şengün since that's his draft mate.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, the dribble handoff should be like a good set for that duo, right? And it has been at times. It helps Jalen get downhill and get to the basket. Again, I think were Jalen a more reliable shooter, that would look better, right? Which is not to just rag on Jalen, because if Şengün were a better shooter, they could run pick and pops, right? But so it ultimately does usually come back to like they don't stretch the floor as much as is possible to stretch the floor, right? Like when they run a two-man action, usually both of them would prefer to get to the paint if possible. So I think that can be a problem. But that, to me, that's the best set for them as a duo. And just, generally through NBA history, like a big and a guard has often been a potent offensive combination.
Indeed. So interestingly enough, the Jalen and Alperen Şengün duo has a negative 3.3 3-point percentage. I don't know if that makes sense or not. It's like a net, like their net on 100% on 100 possessions is like 33%. Sorry, it's 33%. Is it 33%? I don't know how to look at these numbers. I don't know if I'm.
Yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that. I don't know what you're looking at, but
I'm on Basketball Reference.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Anybody in the comments, let me know if I'm looking at that right or wrong. But it says negative 0.033, and that's net. Now I don't know what the baseline is supposed to be, but that's just what it says is net. However, that duo on the floor is a plus 1.6.
Yeah.
So that, but I think as far as points,
both net ratings are higher without each other. If I remember seeing.
Oh, okay. This is what it means. So the Rockets are 3.3% better. I mean worse when those two are on the floor together. The Rockets as a team.
The 3-point shooting.
Yeah, the 3-point shooting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But as a duo, the Rockets are better by 1.6.
In terms of net
two
rating.
together. Yeah, in terms of net rating.
Yeah.
You know what? While I'm at it, let me find Şengün and Amen Thompson, just for reference, because I think that would help the conversation a little bit. Okay, Alperen Şengün and Amen Thompson. Oh, that's beautiful. Plus 6.8.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. So they're better by 6.8 points when those two are on the floor together. Great. We're gonna look at the 3-man lineup too between those three as well, just to see what that looks like as well in a little bit when we get to that point. So yeah, so Jalen Green and the Alperen Şengün stuff. So again, I think there's things that they can do differently. The dribble handoff action, I think, is something we should be spamming between those two, but we don't. we don't spam it enough. They've been working a lot better as of late on the pick and roll, and it's been looking good. Alpes looks like he's kind of in a flow when he gets to the free throw line, that little pocket pass to the free throw line, and he's hitting that nice little 1-foot floater. That's been looking good. Obviously, when he gets downhill, he's about as dangerous as anybody. Not going to be. Sometimes he'll flush on somebody. He's not the most vertical guy, but he'll finish. Although his layups in the post, that's when he's been smoking layups. That's when he's been bad. Yeah. But I think Jalen's outside game complements Şengün's inside game. I just don't think I don't think they emphasize that 2-man game enough. They emphasize mostly Fred and Şengün more than Jalen Şengün, which I don't think should be the order of operations if you ask me.
Yeah, it's almost like in Ime's mind, there's Şengün offense and there's Jalen offense, but he's not merging them. It's like it's either Şengün in the pick and roll, which I think we run too much anyway. I think we should put him in the post more and in the pick and roll less. But even beyond that, it's either Şengün pick and roll or Jalen ISO for the most part. Like the two main ways the Rockets try to score.
Yeah, and it usually gets to Jalen ISO or Şengün post up when there's like 5 seconds left on the shot clock. Which I think is like, okay, man, y'all gave up on the set that bad, right? That easily? Okay, cool. And that's an Ime problem, honestly. That's an Ime problem. He's gotta get better at that.
Yeah. There are Ime problems, man. Like, to be honest,
there's a few of them. There's a few of them.
Yeah, like I really like him. I think he's an above average coach, all that. But there are things that he needs to he's gotta this summer, man, he's got to either look for an offensive coordinator or he's got to hit the books, dude. You know, like it's one or the other.
I think Stone has to help him out by getting rid of his crutches.
Yeah.
It's gonna be either Dylan or Fred. One of them got to go.
Yeah.
Well, they can't come. They can't. Both of them can't come into the season next year.
Man, let me hit you with something before I know we're getting a little off track, but that's okay. That's cool. We're talking Rockets.
Yeah.
I'm just on cleaning glass, and I'm looking at the lineups, right? And the Rockets' best lineup this year has been Şengün, Bari, Brooks, Amen, and Fred. And that lineup is plus 31, 95th percentile, over 116 possessions, which is like not that many, but still like crazy good lineup, right? Mm-hmm. Then the next three positive lineups all have Jalen in them, right? But then the worst lineup that has seen regular time is the current starting lineup. Şengün, Amen Thompson, Green, and Fred. They're negative 8.5. Man, it's not that complicated. Dylan is not very big for 3, and Amen is not very big for 4, and Şengün's not very big for 5. And Fred is a small guard. Like, that is a small-ass lineup with suboptimal spacing. Like, it's not a good starting lineup. It needs to be Şengün, Bari, Amen, man. This Dylan Brooks thing, it's you're right. It's gone too far. And I really like Dylan Brooks. I've grown to love Dylan Brooks. Of course, yeah. It's not about Dylan Brooks. It's just about like
it's about the fit. Like
he's
the flow of the game. Yeah, like it's not gonna work. It's not working. Not that it's not gonna work. It's not working.
It's not working, and it's not gonna work.
Yeah, I think people are just. The problem is people saw the consecutive wins against the Cavaliers and the Celtics, and they're hanging on to that as hard as they can. And then I think in big picture, they're looking super micro. In the big picture, this lineup is not going to work. It could work for those teams, but in the big picture, that's not going to work. As a matter of fact, if you play those two teams in a 7-game series, we not coming out of there with a dub in 7 games.
Maybe one where we just like are super physical and kind of take them by surprise. Like I can see the Rockets winning game one and then getting crushed in all the other games. Maybe, but that's like best case scenario. Yeah,
exactly. Now that lineup that you said, right? Because I had brought this up on a pregame. I think it was last week. That's when I started looking at these 5-man lineups, and I was like, okay, not only is my eye test telling me one thing, but the data is too. And I know there's a lot of data nuts in the on X. So there it is. Now here's some more data for you. Jalen Green and Amen Thompson. If I asked you what their net rating is on the floor together, what would you think it is? Ballpark.
+3,
minus 1.7.
Oh boy, yeah, okay.
But a lot of that has to do with that new starting lineup, though.
Yeah, no doubt. Right. Yeah.
That's a lot of it. A lot of the 2-man data has to do with the 5-man lineups that they're in. That's why I prioritize the 5-man lineups. Yeah. But it's just interesting to kind of look at the perspective of the 2-man lineups just to see what it looks like. So I think I don't know. I guess we touched a little bit on the Jalen and the man stuff too, and how they complement each other, right? Well, how Jalen himself complements a man. Well, let's just say the speed factor. He's got another running mate in the full court. I mean, that's easy. We've said that in the Amen segment. But I also think Amen has somebody else that can get him the ball in the full court, and not just Amen getting Jalen in the full court. So it kind of works both ways. Both of them have somebody that can throw each other a lob. So that's cool. Defensively, I kind of already went over that in the last segment. But outside of that, I don't really, because a man's weakness is glaring, it's kind of like, what's the ceiling on it? The floor can be low, but the ceiling can also be high, but it's just contingent on a little bit too much unpredictability. You know what I mean? Like, you can't really predict the trajectory of somebody's improved jump shot that easily.
Yeah, you can't plan under any assumptions on that, right? Like that.
Exactly. Like somebody can improve from their rookie year to the sophomore year. That don't mean they're going to improve from their sophomore year to their third season as well, and so on and so forth. I'll give you a good example. If you look at, it's going to sound like we're picking on him. If you look at Alperen Sengun's free throw shooting from his rookie season to now, not much different, not much better at all. If you look at his 3-point shooting, it gets worse every single year.
Yeah.
So I would be inclined to think there's no way he's ever going to develop into being a good shooter. It'd be one thing if it's steady in one spot and it just stagnates, because it can go up slightly. But if it's declining this early, that's not a good sign.
No, it's not a good sign. I would say it's unlikely, man. Like it's certainly not impossible. And as you were saying, like 3-point shooting is so volatile. Like okay, I'll give you an example. I have a feeling one of these years, Bari is just going to explode like 39% on 6 attempts per game. You know, like I really think that's coming. Like people, like 3-point shooting development is not necessarily just going to be linear one way or another, right? But it's very discouraging that this far into Sengun's career, it just declines every season. Like that, like at this point, you would be naive to say, I have a feeling he's going to become a shooter, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I look at Amen Thompson, for example, though, like let me look at his actual numbers as of right now, because his 3-point shooting clearly has gotten better. I mean, he's still not in the scouting report as somebody you want to close out on, but at the same time, 13% in his rookie season, it was not hard to get better from him. You know what I mean? So right now he's at 26%, which is, for him, that's an improvement.
It's approaching. Like, it's approaching. I don't know, man. Giannis has never shot 35%. You know what I mean? It's like we don't.
No, he never had.
No, we don't need Amen Thompson to be some kind of knockdown. I just wanted to hit like 33% on an attempt and a half per game, you know, and we're cooking. That's beautiful.
And he might have a game where he hits 6 of them.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. Yeah. And then his free throw percentage last year was at 68%, which for as bad a shooter as he is, you would think he'd be in the 50s. So he's actually at 68%, and now he's at 70% for this season. So, I mean, it's a slight increase. You would hope that he keeps working at it and gets better at it. Because I think he's going to be a guy that ends up getting to the free throw line plenty, because the way he plays and how he likes to get to the basket. Same with Şengün. Şengün likes to get to the basket. He gets to the foul line a good ton right now, as it is, just not making them at a good percentage. So I guess we can go ahead and talk about Alperen Şengün and how he complements. Let's start with Jalen. How he complements Jalen, and on both ends actually. Let's start with offense. How does Alperen Şengün complement Jalen Green on offense?
Well, again, in theory, he should. Jalen should be able to benefit from Şengün's interior gravity. Like the defense converges on Şengün, and that should create space for Jalen. I think that there are a couple of reasons why that's not as effective as we'd like it to be. Firstly, Jalen is just not a consistent shooter, and secondly, to be honest, Şengün has struggled to make the right passing reads. I think that might also be a bit of a Udoka issue, honestly, because like Şengün, as a rookie, the thing that was most exciting about him was like this creative passing and the flair and the vision. Now he's like more of like a sledgehammer player. Like he's really just trying to get in there and score, and he's very focused on scoring, I find. And like the assist numbers are nice and everything, especially for a big, but I think we can all agree that he's a little bit slow reacting to hedges and double teams, right? Yeah, he doesn't really swing the ball that quickly. But you know, if Jalen was a higher percentage shooter, that would help a lot too. So, but in theory, that should be, again, it's that inside-outside dynamic between them.
Well, funny enough, Jalen he's shooting career high from three.
He's pretty good. He's solid.
He's having a pretty good season for the volume that he takes. He's at 35% right now for the season. I'm good with that. Like if he stays at 35 the rest of his career, I'm actually good with that for the volume that he takes. I'm fine with it. I'm completely fine with it.
To me, my feeling is I just wish that he I wish that he had to take, I should say, slightly lower volume. At this point with this team, somebody needs to anchor that volume. Right? So
good point. Very good point. Very good point.
He should be shooting 5 or 6 a game, in my opinion. Then I think he probably hit 37% of them. It's not that I care what that number is, but if he was able to get to the paint more often, I think he'd be a better scorer / player for the Rockets. But as it stands, given that he has to shoot at least 8.5 a night, I agree with you. The percentage is absolutely more than acceptable, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's even shooting career high from the field, and I think a lot of the defensive attention that Alperen Şengün is garnering has helped Jalen Green get cleaner looks, be it from 3 or from 2. I think he does a good. I think Alperen Şengün has done a lot better job screening this year for him too, and helping Jalen get in the paint. Like I said, there's dimensions of that duo that have not yet been tapped into that we really should be leaning into. We've kind of already discussed that. And again, that's a Udoka thing, but it also could be a starting lineup thing with a new starting lineup problem where you got one less shooter in there now. You got one less like one more, not just one less shooter, but non-shooter, one more non-shooter in the lineup who kind of occupies the same space more or less on the floor. So I guess that brings us to how Alperen Şengün complements Amen Thompson. Obviously not shooting wise in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It's just not. The only thing I got is Amen Thompson's cutting and Alperen Şengün able to reward that cutting.
Yeah.
That's really all I got. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. I could be very wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong. I want to be wrong.
No, I don't see any. Again, unless you want to stretch it to say that the fact that Amen is an elite defender and that Şengün has struggles in that area, right?
Yeah. On defense, that's be his compliment. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, that this is kind of the substance of this conversation, right? So it's like when you break it all down, I feel like a lot of people would agree that Amen and Şengün have probably been the best two, but they also complement each other the least, right? Insofar as they're both non-shooters. I think that even in the modern NBA, you can run 2 non-shooters, but you got to surround with excellent shooting. Like, right? No, it's non-negotiable. So, like, does Jalen meet the threshold of a good enough shooter to complement that duo? I'm not even sure if Barry does, right?
If Jalen was a 40% three-point shooter like that, like if he was a sniper like that,
Yeah.
You can walk me into that. You can talk me into it.
But he's not there, right?
Yeah, he's not there.
So, this is where we say it gets to be an uncomfortable conversation, because if I'm being completely honest, I don't think, and you've talked to me enough to know I haven't really thought at all that this trio is going to make sense long term, right? Like, as to who gets moved or whatever, I don't know. I will say that I've heard from people I trust that the front office is highest on Amen Thompson. He's my favorite player. I've made no secrets of that, right? But it feels like that's the way it's going, right? Like, Amen is the dude.
Hell yeah.
And after that, we'll see, right? Yeah.
That's easy, man. Listen, Amen Thompson was my favorite Rocket when he took Tyler Hero and tossed him into the 5th row. That solidified it for me.
Yeah,
like,
fair.
And he got the now nobody want to mess with him.
Yeah,
because they're like,
the kid has
he's pretty strong
too, man. He's got intangibles that you can't, because he's tough as hell, but he's also like very intelligent. And to me, he feels like a young man that I think looks like a leader. Like, for whatever.
Yeah, yeah. For sure. Like, you can see him being a franchise guy.
Yeah.
Like, of all the three, I mean, people will say, well, Shankun just made an All-Star. That's cute. He should have been. His numbers were better last season. Like, if you want to just go straight up off of numbers, and if I'm not mistaken, I think his plus minus might have been better last season too. I can't remember, but yeah, man. Amen Thompson got, from a personality standpoint, I think he's got everything it takes to be a franchise guy. I think his game is also aesthetically pleasing, and he plays both ends. It's just that one glaring weakness is so glaring and fluorescently red. Is like, okay, if that never comes around, I don't know if we can make him the franchise guy. However, his floor is so high, I think you can get away. You can still justify him being drafted where he was.
Oh, yeah. So there's 2 questions. There's like, is he a franchise guy? 3 questions. Is anyone on the Rockets right now a franchise guy? And if the answer to the second question is no, it's still reasonable to say, like, Amen is the guy that we're highest on, but we're going to trade for our franchise guy. And then they just have to be a shooter so that they complement Amen, like, and then Amen's your number 2. Like, that's fine, right?
That's fine. You could be a number 2 and still be the franchise guy.
Exactly. Yeah, in a sense, right?
Dwayne Wade with Miami and LeBron.
He was the franchise guy. That's a great example, right? Yeah. Let me say this, man. I think the argument for Amen is simple, is that he is more special on the defensive end than anyone else on the Rockets is going to be in any facet of the game. Like, as good as Şengün is, right? I don't know if he's capable of being like one of the 5 best offensive players in the NBA. I know for sure Amen Thompson can be a top 5 defender in the NBA if he isn't already, right? And I would say that the team has clearly put an emphasis on defense. They've drafted for defense. They hired Ime Udoka. There seems to be a philosophical leaning towards, like, I think the thinking is, look, in this modern NBA, there are a bazillion excellent offensive players. We want to have the edge in the place where less teams have an edge, and beat guys on defense. And as long as they can build a top 10 offense, that's fine, right?
So you said special. Let's kind of talk about that real quick. We already said Amen Thompson's special talent is his defense. That's really the most special thing that he's got in his tool bag right now. Okay, what is Jalen's special talent, if you had to pick one?
Yeah, I would say it's more of an athletic trait, maybe, but his first step, or like his relocation. Like, man, when that guy hits the step back, it looks like he just teleports from one place to another. It's crazy, And so I would say that like foot speed and first step remains Jalen's most special attribute right now.
So pretty much his ability to create space.
His ability to create space, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can agree with that. Now, Alperen Şengün, what is his superpower? What is his special talent? I
think footwork might be my answer.
He's special. His feet are very special, man.
His feet are really special. He can really move that way, man. Or like, well, he knows how to move that way is really a better way to put it, I think. Up until this year, I would have said his footwork combined with his touch, but obviously his touch he's struggled a bit that way this year. I do think, to some extent, it's the fact that he's trying really hard on defense, and then
some of it is legs, some of it, but not the whole thing,
No, so you just hope that comes back next year, but the footwork is still there. Like he's got moves under the basket, man, fakes and
he got stuff that most of the players just can't have. They just won't have that. They won't have it. Like not many players in the league, you can just get a ball to in the post and they can make something happen that ain't got nothing to do with athleticism.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it too. Yeah. It's like, I mean, we're talking about a lot of European dudes, obviously, but it's like Luka, Jokic. Who else really works in the post, man? Tatum kind of likes to post up, actually, but it's more like a high post looking for that turnaround thing, you know? It's only a few dudes, really.
It ain't a lot, man.
No.
I really want to give credit to somebody, but I don't even know who I can give credit to.
Yeah, it's tough. Shout out to Derek Queen out of Maryland. That's a dude who I think is going to do some nasty work in the post starting next year, but he's not in the NBA yet, so you know.
I'm gonna look out for him. I'm gonna
go
see if I can find some film since you mentioned him. All right, Mr. Derek Queen, don't disappoint me with your film now.
he's kind of like the Black Şengün. Yeah, you'll see it when you see it.
Cool. All right, so let's look at this 3-man lineup data. So if I had to give you a guess on what their net rating is for points, what would you guess Alperen Şengün, Amen Thompson, and Jalen Green's 3-man lineup data would tell you? What's their plus minus?
Damn, it's got to be positive. I mean, the Rockets are way over.
It is positive.
Yeah, okay.
It is positive.
I'm gonna say like plus 6.
Plus 0.4.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
All right, let's edit this. Go back a little bit. I'm gonna say plus 0.6, man. You know.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, bruh. It's not it's not what you would hope.
It's like how does their record so good then? You know.
Because of the start that they had. It's because of the starting lineup that they had at first.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. For all of the problems and the issues that we had with it, it was working. It was producing wins.
Yeah.
Now I understand the argument of, Amen Thompson. He's putting up these crazy good numbers. You can't put him back on the bench. But what's more important, one person's numbers or the team's wins? But, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just I think what always frustrates me, man, about that conversation is that like. I think a lot of us would agree that the obvious answer is to put Dylan on the bench. Like,
yeah,
I think from a basketball perspective and from a future team building type of perspective, right? So it's like I definitely want Bari starting. I think his height is so important next to Şengün. Just having a guy that's like 6'11" that can actually double back to the paint when Şengün is out of position. And it's not even Şengün's fault he's out of position. He's just asked to defend at the level a lot, right? And it's hard to circle back that way, but Bari can do it. And it's a really good compliment. And then with the two of them having that dynamic, I find that Amen can just like freelance and create a lot of chaos and get steals and weak side blocks and stuff, right? But Dylan can't really do that stuff because he's only 6'5". And then you can't put him in the backcourt because the team is light on creation as is. You need Jalen's ability to handle and stuff. So like, Dylan's got to go, man. I love the guy, but it's just time, you know.
Hey man, be nice to your fellow Canadian now.
Hey man, look,
be nice to him.
That's my dude right now. I love him. I love Dylan.
You gotta love Dylan. He's hard not to love when he's on your team. Like you want a guy like that in the foxhole with you if you got to go to war.
Hell yeah,
you gotta have a Dylan Brooks.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Like Dylan Brooks would probably be the easiest person that I would say would belong on the bench. Because then at that point, you got 4 guys who can create. Is it 4 or is it 5? Yeah, you got 4 guys who can create. And you don't have to spam as many plays because you got guys that, I don't know if I want to put Fred in their creator category necessarily.
Kind of like halfway between almost.
Yeah, he's kind of halfway between because if it ain't a pick and roll, he can't do nothing.
No. I think Fred creates in the sense that like his off the dribble 3-point shooting is like somewhat viable. He can get hot on those shots and he creates a little bit of offense that way, or at least he has gravity that way. But like he's not like You wouldn't put him in the same conversation as like creators, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, not necessarily. Like he's not a guy if he's running to pick a roll, you don't care about blitzing him.
No.
You'll blitz Jalen though. You'll blitz the hell out of Jalen. You don't want that man in your paint.
Exactly, man. Facts.
Yeah, and that's why I think him and Şengün should be spamming their pick and roll a little bit more, because when both are in your paint, your defense has problems.
Yeah,
you got Fred and Şengün in the paint. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I know.
What you gonna do, Fred?
Dude, it's so funny because that pick and roll has been the staple of Udoka's offense for 2 years, and like you look at the two guys involved, and it's like, man, that is one limited pick and roll. Like Şengün's not a lob threat, Fred's not a driving threat. You know, why would that be the play? The way they run it, we talked about this the first time I think I podcasted with you. We talked about this, how it's more like a Malone Stockton pick and roll, where like really you're just getting Şengün in position to like score in a face-up action, you know. But I don't know, man. It's not the most inspiring offense in the NBA right now. I'll tell you that.
It's not. But with Fred, tweaking his ankle again, you would expect a little bit more creativity and out of the box thinking from Ime Udoka. We need to be more. And I don't even mind Amen Thompson and Alperen Şengün pick and roll. I don't even mind that, because again, if those two get in your paint at the same time, you got hella issues, because somebody either getting put on a poster, or you're gonna collapse so hard because, I mean, what are you gonna do? Yeah, somebody's gonna be open on the wings.
Yeah.
And because Jalen is not in that pick and roll action, he can actually just spot up and get an easier 3-point shot.
Yeah.
So I don't mind Amen Thompson, Alperen Şengün pick and roll being run a little bit more. They don't do that enough either.
Agreed.
We don't even run Shin Hub enough. Like the dribble handoff stuff happens like in the first quarter, and then that's it.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if that's a little bit of consequence of youth, man. Because you're right. A lot of times, the first quarter, it looks like we have a plan, and then everything just kind of devolves, and we just go back to these spamming these like basic ass sets. And I do wonder if a little bit of Ime is pulling the little hair that he has left out, because he's like this. I'm telling you how to play, and you're doing it in the beginning, and then you just stop doing it. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I think he's a little impatient.
Yeah,
he's just a little bit impatient, man. And we forget this is Ime Udoka's third year being a full-time coach.
Yep.
So we would hope. Now let me ask you this: since we're on Ime Udoka, would you say he's been better this season than he was last season?
I mean, you almost have to say yes, because the Rockets are better with like almost the exact same roster.
But we're also healthier.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Not a lot better, like it's pretty much kind of the same, isn't it? Like still high pick and roll frequency, low post up and dribble handoff, despite having a big that like thrives in those two areas, I don't know. Jalen and Amen are both having better seasons. Maybe you could credit him to some extent for that, but then, I mean, Amen's a sophomore. He's like supposed to be better,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, but we do agree that those are the three guys. If you had to pick out of the 7 young guys, those are the 3 guys that it makes the most sense to, I guess, move forward with and build around. Would you say?
I would put it as at least some combination of those 3 guys. Like those are the 3 guys that have cornerstone potential. Mm-hmm. Whether they all work together is a separate thing for me, Whereas again, Barry and Tari, I think will work with anybody. Mm-hmm. I would be inclined to give it like another season to see if that trio can work too. I'm not trying to rush in to like make a move, but I am a little bit skeptical about the 3 of them complementing each other long term.
I'd give it another season with them 3, obviously, as well. I'm not a big trade happy person myself. So, but if we're going to get them 3 another season, one of them 2 vets in the starting lineup got to kick rocks. One of them got to kick rocks. I don't know which is easier. And I think the Dylan Brooks starting thing, I think, is a matter of keeping his value as high as possible, because you may want to move him in the summer.
Yeah.
I think that's most of the thinking behind all of this. And with the Jabari thing, it's easier to have him come off the bench, because, I mean, you're in your 3rd year. You're looking for an extension. You better not rock the boat. You know what I mean? It's not as playing with your pockets a little bit. So Jabari is going to be a team guy right now.
See how he feels look going into next year, though, for sure.
Exactly. I do think, ideally, my future starting five, ideally, if I had it my way, would be Amin, Jalen, Tari, Jabari, Şengün.
Yeah.
Because you kind of got all you need. I think Tari's a solid enough shooter. And I mean, he's got that tunnel vision a little bit, but it ain't as bad when he's got other guys around him. Like when he's got Jalen and Şengün with him, he's not as bad. But when he's out there with like Dylan,
I think Tari's improved in that way, man. I think one thing I've noticed is that he passes on fast breaks a lot more often than he used to. Like it used to be, you get him the ball at any juncture in the break, and he's just gonna go. You know, like there's like no matter what the floor looks like, he's just gonna grab it and go. Now he'll make nice look ahead passes and stuff on the fast break. One thing I do find is when it comes to offensive rebounds, he'll get 6 in a row and put it back up every time, and it's like, dude, you are allowed to just kick it out, you know, like you don't have to put the layup back up. Like, so I
happened last night against the Pacers.
That possession, man, by the third one, I was like, that's it, man. Like, you're not gonna make it happen, you know?
Yeah, Miles Turner was in his bag and then paint last night, boy. 5 blocks. He was just being a complete terrorist, boy. Man, my goodness. Isn't it nice to have a shot blocker, man? Wouldn't it be nice for us to have one?
Come on now.
Finally, Dante.
And probably Dante. Yeah, hell yeah.
If you ask me, he need to be getting the lion's share of the back of 5 minutes the rest of the season. I don't care what good screens Steven Adams is setting out there. I don't care. Get me Dante.
I'm on the fence about the Adams thing. I do think Adams still, like, he kind of sucks on defense now, man. It's frustrating, but he's a plus positional passer. Still probably the best screener in the league, and a really good offensive rebounder. So I get if Ime wants to prioritize him anyway, but I don't want to see Jock Landale on the floor again. That's one thing. Like Dante should be in that position where if Adams can't play, which is frequent, Dante's next man up, and if Adams is struggling in some way and we need another backup 5 look, Dante's next man up. That's that. At least I would like to see him there. And if he replaced Adams, I wouldn't complain. I get what you're saying. You know,
I got a feeling either Adams or Jock are still going to be here next year, and Dante going to be out of here.
I kind of think the same thing. Yeah,
I got a feeling.
Yeah. I think so too.
What's your thoughts on them extending Nate Williams, giving him a full NBA deal? I think that kind of plays into it. I think that plays into all of the decision making that's going on.
Yeah, I was a little bit puzzled, to be completely honest. I mean, like, he's not done much of anything at the NBA level. I don't know, but like maybe he's a good dude. They like the cultural fit. It's only a vet minimum, so it's not, you know, any kind of a major commitment. That's why I can't be upset about it, because I can't be upset about you know that much money per season or whatever it was. It just doesn't really matter. These 12th man type, but I was surprised. I was like, wow, Nate Williams, I guess. I didn't even realize until that Nate Williams was also Jonathan Williams. I had to go look into that. I was confused. I was trying to write the article. I'm like, well, who's Nate Williams anyway? He doesn't even have a basketball reference, you know? Then it was Jonathan Williams. I'm like, okay, all right, yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's terrible, man. But we're not taking that out of this. Oh, we're keeping that on here.
I was just confused, you know.
That's hilarious, man. So, yeah, the Nate Williams thing is one thing, and then you also have the Jae'Sean Tate thing. Like, you got a bunch of guys on contracts that are just like, can we not do something about this? Because those contracts can be flipped in one way or the other to get something that we could use today and tomorrow. Like, what's your take on that? Like, we got Tate now, Nate, Jock, Adams. That's 4 guys.
I think maybe it's a little bit weird where the Rockets have such like a strong 7 or 8 man rotation that maybe there's a feeling of like, well, what's the point of having a good 9th man type of thing? You know, it's a tricky thing to look, because it's like, on the one hand, I did think that we needed a backup point guard at the deadline. I think that's gonna hurt us if they care at all about what happens this season. You know, Aaron Holiday is fine, but if you're a team that, like, you know, at that time was the 2nd seed in the Western Conference, I think you can upgrade Aaron Holiday, you know, especially when you have lots of stuff, right? So to that extent, I would have looked to flip some of those deals with some second round picks to go get, like, I don't know, somebody, Brogdon preferably, you know? But
That's the guy I wanted.
yeah, Brogdon would have been really nice, man. Really, he's a really good player.
Yeah.
But then maybe they just feel like, how do we even find time for him? Because we've got all these guys anyway that all, like, Cam Whitmore can't even get on the floor, you know?
Yeah, Cam can't get on the floor. I don't know what we're doing with Reed Sherbert exactly, but he hasn't done himself no favors up until Thunder game. He did himself favors.
That one game, yeah.
Yeah, I needed to see that Reed Sherbert show up, because if not, I wouldn't have anything to hang on to. Like, okay, we drafted this guy at number 3. He hasn't shown any flashes of anything.
Yeah,
but that game showed me a flash. All right, I'm cool.
Yeah,
I'm not as worried as I was before, because I was high on him coming in anyway. And then last thing I got for you is, what do you think we do with Fred this summer? Does he opt out? Does he opt into that 44 and then we maybe trade him in the summer? Like, what happens?
I have a feeling, my prediction, and this is just like reading the media tea leaves, like, no, not based on anything I know, or like, but, and maybe just my read of like how they seem to feel about him. I think he's going to opt out and sign something long-term that's like on the side of team friendly, maybe $25 million a year, something like that. Yeah, I know. I hear you. Well, I like Fred, actually. I think he kind of gets a bit of a bad
not
rep,
at 25. That means that's starter money, because I don't want to give him nothing that feels like he shouldn't ever at any point come off the bench.
I get it. But it's tradable money if that's the way we go too, you know?
It is tradable, yeah. 25. But is it really tradable for Fred VanVleet?
I think
it's not tradable. So my definition of tradable is you trade him and you don't have to attach any premium assets to him.
Yeah. I think it would depend on whether, like, okay, he's having a rough season efficiency wise, but let's not forget that, like, last year at 25 million, I think Fred would have been one of the best contracts in the league, right? Like typically he's a high efficiency 3-point shooter and a low turnover point guard and like a really good player. So I think the question will come to, like, does he bounce back, or is this the new normal? We do know that small guards don't always age well, right? So it could just be that Fred is kind of donezo, and then
they don't get healthier either.
No, they don't. Yeah, so that could end up being a rough contract, but that's kind of what I think is going to happen, to be honest.
I mean, all right, how many years though?
3?
That'd be my max.
3 + 1 type of deal, maybe?
Hell no. 2 + 1. All
right, 2 + 1.
Give 3 + 1? No.
I'll tell you what I would do is probably just accept the option and give it another year to see how I feel about it, and trade him if the trade feels right. You know, that's what I would probably do. Like, I like him, but I certainly don't think he's irreplaceable or something, you know?
I think it also depends on the landscape of the NBA and who may or may not come available, because these guys, I mean, if you had Luka being traded to the Lakers in your offseason bingo card, you probably made out really nice. But you just never know. And then also, if somebody does come available, does it have to be a point guard for us to feel like we want to get rid of Fred, throw him in that deal? And who else is going in that deal? Like, I don't want to give him. Damn, now I'm thinking about it. If you do opt into that 40+ mil, you don't really have to add a bunch of aggregate salary.
Yeah, exactly. You can just flip that with the picks, like if that's enough to get the deal done, right? Like, yeah. It is a little hard to pinpoint who you make. Like, I like LaMelo Ball. I actually love watching LaMelo Ball, but the injuries are super concerning. That's the best thing I can think of. You know what I mean? As a guy that plays 30 games a year, so I'm not sure what the move is necessarily.
He's not a Udoka guy anyway, man. Udoka
probably not. No, and that makes you think of Trae Young, who's definitely not a Udoka guy.
Definitely not, man.
At least LaMelo is like 6'6", 6'7". Maybe they look at it and go, with the right coaching, he can be taught to defend. Trae Young's never going to be able to defend.
Nah, right? He doesn't have any defensive tools.
Exactly.
Yeah, none whatsoever to speak of, and he's too small. Yeah, and you got to play a certain style with Trae Young when he's in the game.
How does that style that fits the rest of the guys'
Right. This communist offense that Ime Udoka likes, this what they say? Sometimes you, sometimes me, always us.
Always us, yeah.
I think that really just applies to Dylan Brooks. I think he does that. He does that to make Dylan Brooks feel good, honestly.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Because he hijacks possessions more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Sure, Cam might do it here and there, but he's a scorer like that.
And he's a kid.
And he's a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fred will hijack possessions because he can. No, he's not gonna get benched. There's no circumstance where he's gonna get benched unless he fouls out. It's the only time he's ever been benched. Like you got these hijackers on this offense, man, and I think that's where, to me, is our biggest problem. The hierarchy needs to get set, and it needs to get set quick. If you look at that Thunder game, sure we lost, but there was a hierarchy.
Yeah, the offense was fantastic. It was
everyone knew everyone knew what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it.
And they played faster, freer.
Yep, they played faster. Yep, faster and freer. Those are the two F's. You're right. Yeah. Fast and free. They weren't worried about, man, I can't go out here and make a mistake because I won't play the rest of the game. There's something to that.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to go full Silas where it's just a free-for-all. We don't want that. No. But, man, Udoka's like the polar opposite. You make one mistake, unless you're Fred and Dylan, you make one mistake, you got to go sit next to him. We not that. What is that? What is that about, man? I get sometimes, you kind of want to set a standard, and you don't want anybody to, feel like, they're above their law, unless you're Fred. But that's what the problem is. To me,
that's what the problem is.
To me, I wouldn't have a problem with it if Fred and Dylan were both held to that same standard, and they're not. No matter what, they're always in the closing lineup. That shouldn't be the case. Because they're not the best players.
They're not the best players.
They're not the best players. It'll be different if they're the best players.
To the future either, right? So
exactly. Like if I had it my way, neither one of them would be here next season. If I had it my way.
I'm not sure.
Well, maybe Fred, but under certain circumstances, Dylan can go. He's replaceable. I think
the thing is, Fred right now, it might be too much of a seismic shock to the team. You know what I mean? Like systemic shock is what I mean, I guess. Like I'm worried about we just plug Eamon in at the point, and Eamon's not quite ready, and then the team loses a few more games, and I feel like inertia is a real thing in the NBA. You can't afford to go backwards. Like we want even just to win a couple more games next year than we won this year. Like you want to keep going forward if you can, right? And so I want to make sure the team is ready to replace Fred before Fred is gone. I can't see him just going. You could trade him for a star guard or just keep him on the roster, and if a man proves hey, look, we're really good when I run point, now you start thinking about trading Fred. But I don't think a man is quite there yet,
I don't think he's quite there yet. But at the same time, I feel like they were starting to come around just a little bit before Fred came back. I started to see some signs of, okay, I can see where they're going with this, and I can see how this will work. I think, save for last night, the Pacers game, I just think that was just bad matchup.
It's a bad matchup for us. Yeah,
Miles Turner was a problem on both ends. It's just horrible matchup. But ideally, that starting lineup from last night, that's something I would I'd give a lot more burn to see what it looks like. Who we play next? We play Pelicans next. If Fred, I'd sit Fred that game too.
Oh, hell yeah. Whether he's healthy or not. Yeah. If we can't smash the Pelicans right now, we got major problems.
Yeah, we got other problems to worry about, man.
Yeah.
Playoff rotation. As of right now, who's your playoff rotation? I think this will probably be the last thing before we wrap it up.
So I guess if I had it my way.
Yeah, if you had it your way.
Yeah. Starting lineups: Fred, Jalen, Amen, Bari, Şengün. Sixth man probably Brooks, seventh man Tari. That 7-man group is getting comfortably more minutes than everybody else. I would say eighth man is Adams when he's available. And then I'd say Aaron Holiday. I don't know if I'm really comfortable putting Reed on the floor in the postseason right now, man, to be honest. So maybe that's something we hope to see next year. What do you think?
That's 100% fair, man. I'm 100% with you. I really can't. That's what I would do too.
Yeah.
If it was up to me, if I'm coaching the team.
Well, I don't think it's what we're
Devin,
gonna do,
you can come off the bench and antagonize people off the bench. But
you can do that.
But I get it. Yeah, exactly, from the bench. But I get it. You got to keep his value up so you can trade him in the offseason. But if they don't trade him, I'm gonna be like, okay, so what was all that for?
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna have bigger questions. I don't know who I'm gonna look at more, Stone or Ime. I don't know. I'm gonna look at one of them sideways.
One of the same anyway, man. You know, like that's the brain trust. You know,
pretty much, yeah. And
I love them both.
Isn't another guy in that front office too that's kind of like very key in a lot of stuff they do? Not Patrick Fertitta.
I can never remember his name. The guy that everybody
Eli Whitus.
Yeah, Eli Whitus. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I think he's more on the draft side of things. So, but maybe I'm wrong on that. And then people say that Patrick Fertitta has some influence too. So who knows? Who knows? Either way, I think good decisions are largely being made, especially from a front office perspective. I love Stone. I know you have kind of 180'd in that you were skeptical about him.
Yeah.
But now you
come around.
See him. Yeah. I love Stone. I think he's like a top 5 or 10 GM personally. So,
man, top 5. That's hard.
It's hard.
That's hard, man.
Don't forget who said it. You know.
Yeah. Top 10. I'm all right with top 5. Anyway, we'll probably do that on another
yeah,
time.
Let's do that another time. Yeah.
Probably in the off season, man, when there ain't nothing else to talk about. Yeah, man. Go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you, man.
Yeah, man. SpaceCityScoop.com. That's where I post my articles. Go check it out. And The Franchise is my podcast with Nevin Brown. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. Check us out.
Show. You guys should check it out.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, we've had some great guests in the past as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you sure have. We're not gonna say no names though. We're gonna let you go find out, so we can drive traffic over there. You know.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on, dude.
For sure, man. Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate everybody for kicking it with us up until this point. Which means you like the video, you like what you heard. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can find us both on the Rockets Run Robin every now and again. We try to get James on when he's free, but you know, Canadians are very busy people. You know,
trying to beat these tariffs, man. You know, I got to get out. And get some canned goods and shit before.
Oh my goodness! Or you can smuggle them across the border real quick. Who knows? But oh dang, I said that on camera. Oh well. But yeah, man. Next time, everybody tune in. This is your man's AK Infinity. Follow me on Twitter/X at AKInfinity_VVS. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and everybody come back again. And we are out.